Despite whatever problems he may have, Riq Woolen got back to his shutdown ways last week against the Jets. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. It's Thursday. We got a game tonight. It's a good game. Not a Seahawks game, but it's going to be a good game. Going to be fun. Got a show with the Hawks Nest. Starts in about 3 hours from the upload of this video. So check in in a few hours, and we will talk about the Jets game, talk about the upcoming Cardinals game. You guys know how we do it. You guys know what it's all about. Tune in. We have fun. But before we get to any of that, we got to do some past coverage stuff, and you guys know what this series is all about as well if you've been here long enough. We parse out who is responsible for what in terms of allowing catches and receiving yards and receiving touchdowns in the Seahawks defense, because this is something where I think people don't pay a lot of attention to this stuff. They know that, oh, the team gave up this number of passing yards in this game, but sometimes they don't do quite enough to look at who's allowing what, who's the liability, who's the problem, where's the issue coming from, etc. Now, in this Jets game, it really wasn't bad at all. It was actually a very agreeable game for the pass defense. Rodgers was very limited. He had a very low yards per attempt, and really, the only reason why the Jets were in that game were because of insane happenings on special teams. Excuse me. So overall, not bad. Kind of interesting, though, the linebackers that we're looking at, because, of course, we don't care about Baker or Dodson anymore. They're not on the team. Jones and Knight both have the exact same number of targets and completions allowed this season. 81% on 21 targets. Ernest Jones didn't allow a lot in this game. I think it was about 22 yards on 3 targets. Now, Knight, they did give him about 50 receiving yards, but I think some of that was from last week. Remember, PFR didn't fully update last week, so I think they had some stuff left over for Tyrese Knight that they didn't push into the Cardinals game. So I think that some of the stuff they gave him for the Jets game was actually from the Arizona game. You can see that in the case of Tyrese Knight, it's almost all yak as well, which is actually kind of encouraging, because air yards are mostly the fault of the player in coverage. Yak can be the fault of a lot of different players. Anybody who misses a tackle or misses an opportunity to bring the ball carrier down earlier. And sometimes that's not Tyrese Knight. Sometimes that's Witherspoon. Sometimes that's Woolen. Sometimes that's Love. It could be anybody. So, on the whole, can't be upset about the way the linebackers are playing in coverage. We knew that Ernest Jones wasn't great at it, but he hasn't been a big liability so far. Both about a 94, 97 QB rating when targeted. I'm down with that. I got no beef with that at all. Edge rushers, we did have a couple of new targets here. We don't get a lot of these. Boye Mafe gave up 1 catch for like 14 yards. Really not much to say. It's all yak as well, right? It's all yak. It's all just like screen passes, and sometimes they go for big plays. 104.2 QB rating. Draymond Jones did get targeted in this game. They actually credited him with the shovel pass touchdown to, I can't even remember the guy's name, but the shovel pass touchdown was credited to Draymond on PFR, and they gave it to Julian Love on PFF. So draw your own conclusions, but that's not really a play that I would put on Draymond Jones. I don't really think you can say he did anything wrong on that play in coverage. It's a shovel pass. But whatever. I mean, it has to go on somebody, right? So QB rating allowed for him goes up to 100, but who cares? It doesn't matter. Wouldn't read into that at all. All right, now we get to the more interesting stuff, the meatier stuff, cornerbacks. And cornerbacks got targeted heavily in this game. Devin Witherspoon, according to PFR, 6 targets in this game for a grand total of 3 completions. And they got a little bit on him. They gave him about 40 yards, which I think is the same as PFF. Not great, but not too bad either. It's 6 targets, 40 yards. I can live with that. I'd like a little bit more from my superstar cornerback, sure, but sometimes it's not that easy. And the Jets have good receivers. They have a bad offense. They got talented receivers, though, so they're going to get you sometimes. And Witherspoon, a 96.2 QB rating when targeted so far this year. He, straight up, he's having a worse year than he did last year. Last year, I think he allowed like 470 yards in coverage. This year, he's already above 500. But, like I said, sophomore slumps are not the most shocking thing in the world. Riq Woolen. Both sites more or less agree fundamentally. They have a little bit of a disagreement on the exact precise details, but Riq Woolen got targeted a lot in this game. They gave him 7 targets, but only 2 completions for a grand total of 5 yards. All air yards, by the way. No yak. 0 yak. So while I do have some issues with Woolen's effort on some of the plays, like the 3rd and 26 that the Jets almost converted, I thought he looked very lackadaisical on that play. In coverage, dude was locked down. And in that regard, he was like his early season self. So, hey, he's still out there covering. I can't say anything about that. I still think that if you're going to pay him a ton of money, which he's probably looking for, you need something a little bit more from him in some area, be it becoming a replacement level tackler and run defender at least, or being even more locked down in coverage. But I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. He's still really hard to get at in coverage. And the only other corner to really play in this game for the Seahawks was Joby. According to PFR, they targeted him 10 times for 5 completions. It's possible that 1 or 2 of those targets was from last week against the Cardinals, and it was actually like 8 or 9 targets. I'm not going to stress that point too much. It was about 50 yards. And honestly, for your third corner that you know is going to be the weak point in your secondary, that's not bad, right? That's really not anything that I'm upset about. That's 50 yards on anywhere from 8 to 10 targets. Let's say it is 10 targets. What's wrong with that? There's really nothing wrong with that. He did allow the touchdown. He allowed a touchdown to Devontae, right? A lot of people allow touchdowns to Devontae Adams. That's a former All-Pro. So even in a game like this where Joby did get picked on, he didn't really get exploited. I don't know how happy the Jets are, knowing they're going to get about 5 yards of play when they target Josh Joby. That's probably not what they're... that's probably not within their circle of success. 71.6 QB rating when targeted, by the way. Still better than Woolen, better than Witherspoon, better than either starting linebacker. It's like, I don't want to say he's better than those guys, but he's got something going on there that I don't think any of us could have reasonably expected. And Julian Love had a really good game. We all know that. I think targeted 3 times according to PFR for 2 completions and all of 3 yards. He had the 1 completion on, I think, the final drive where he got the tackle for no gain, and then there was 1 more completion in there somewhere. And unlike PFF, they didn't give him the touchdown. So his QB rating allowed is still high, still over 100, but he played probably his best game of the year to my eye. I think he played the best game that he's played all year. So Julian Love, really good. Rayshon did get targeted 3 times in this game for a grand total of 2 completions and a decent chunk of yards, 28. I'm not going to trip on that too much, but I think we can now definitively say he's not part of the long term here. He shouldn't be here next year. Decent enough player, but we found things that are better. 114 QB rating against, and then you compare him to the guy who replaced him, Kobe Bryant, and right now, I mean, I know it's just a handful of games, but it's not close, really. What do we got? We got like 5 targets on Kobe Bryant for 3 completions, and what did it end up being? 17 yards. And this wasn't even one of his really good games. Like, a lot of people would say he played much better in previous games. And he's still only allowing 17 yards on 5 targets. Like, this is a winning formula right here, man. So Kobe Bryant, I mean, he's even better off than Joby. Joby's at 71.6. Kobe Bryant's all the way down here at sub 58. And I know it's different for a safety, don't get me wrong. And ultimately, he's still kind of coasting on the fact that he has 2 interceptions, which other players are not lucky enough to have the benefit of as a safety. It's a little easier to play center field and get a high number of interceptions. But regardless, you're comparing them to someone like Rayshon or even Julian Love. It just feels very different. All right, that's pass coverage Thursday. Those are the numbers. I mean, the safety position has improved dramatically over the last few weeks, I feel like. It wasn't that long ago that it felt like Julian Love was giving up everything in coverage. Now he's not. And you can see how much these opposing quarterbacks are being forced to target our corners. And I know our corners have given up some stuff lately. Like Witherspoon's at over 500 yards allowed. That's crazy. That's a lot. He's probably near the league lead. And Woolen hasn't been great lately, but still, I don't think quarterbacks want to target those guys. Especially Woolen, because of his speed and his recovery ability and his length. You don't want to be targeting him when you can target someone else. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Another video in a couple of hours. We need to do the routing guide. Again, keep an eye out for the stream of the Hawk's Nest. We're going to go in about 3 hours from the upload of this video. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think down below.